Alright guys, so we are going to learn how we can create a user interface of a simple CRUD application in ReactJS. So to develop this application, I have used ReactJS as front-end side and springboot and H2 database at back-end side. But in this video, I'm going to include only the front-end part. And if you want to learn the backend part also, I'm going to upload another video. And throughout the development of this application, you can learn a few things in ReactJS that I have just listed out. Those are like how you can make REST API calls, and you can learn about routing concept. And I have used use effect hook, I have used promises, and I have used use state hook and use navigate hook. And you can learn how you can pass the data from one component to another using routing concept, and how to fetch the data and display them in a table. You can learn form handling also, and I have used Bootstrap library to give the styles to HTML components. So let us begin the coding part, and once done, I will upload the code on Git and I will share you the link in description. Alright, so I'm going to create a React app in this folder. So let me just copy this path and let me open the command prompt and let me create a React app, a new React project. So let me go to this path, and here I'm going to create it's npx create React app, and name of my application, that would be portal front end. Let me hit the enter. So this is going to create a new React app, and this will take a few minutes to complete. So we have to wait till then. So alright, so the React application has been created. Now we have to launch the Visual Studio Code, and we have to open this project folder. Okay, so we have added this React application folder to this Visual Studio Code, and now let us run this application and see the output. npm start. So we hit npm start command and it will start the server for this application. And so we see that the application has been launched, and we see the UI loading. So this page is app.js, which is showing up this UI part. So let us go to app.js and edit this a bit. So that is the HTML code that we have in app.js. So let us remove this one and just customize this. Let me save this and let it run. So as soon as it has run, it will reflect the UI. Okay, so now let us do one thing. We are going to install all those libraries which we are going to use to make this CRUD application. So we will be adding Bootstrap. We will add router. We will use Axios to make the REST operations. And so let us install Bootstrap first. So let's go to the React terminal and npm install Bootstrap. So Bootstrap is being added. So as soon as it is added, we'll see that the Bootstrap entry in this file, package.json. Okay, so it is added and we see the Bootstrap entry. Now let us add these to import to index.js so that we can use the Bootstrap. So this is index.js and we have added these two lines, and the next part is we have to install the router, and to install router we have to do npm install react router DOM. Okay, so React router has also been installed. Now let us install the Axios library. Okay, so we have added Bootstrap, we have added React Axios, we have added React Router DOM. So for your information, I need to mention that the Bootstrap we have added to make user interface look interactive, to make it look better. And React Axios we have used so that we can send out the requests and receive the responses from and to REST APIs. So and the next is React Router, right? So router we have installed so that we can switch between the components. So these three libraries we have installed, and now let us begin our work, the real work, that's the CRUD application. So first of all, to make this structure look neat and clean, right, we should create the service class, and then we should create a separate component folder where we can save all our components, and one service folder where we can store the component file. So in src we are going to create a folder for service, then we are going to create a folder for components. All right, So in service, we are going to create a class called user service.js, and in components, since we are going to do the CRUD operations, so we are going to create separate file for separate component for each operation. So let this be add user.js, then view users.js, then delete user.js, then update user.js. So we have created these 4 files, 4 components, and one user service utility class, from where from this user service class we would be calling the REST API calls, and these 4 components will be having the user interface code and the logic to perform the CRUD operations. And we can add one more component that can be header. Okay, so now since these components are empty, we will just fill up them with a simple template. So let me begin with add user. So import React. Okay, then let add user here return to render the component and a tag that is parent tag. Then export this component. Same way we have to add this to all other components. So we will just copy the same code and change their names. All right. Then we'll move to header. All right, we will move to update user. Then we would move to view users. Sorry for that. Okay, so this part is done. Now let us move to user service. Let us move to app.js, where we would be using the routing concept. So first of all, we have to import router. All right, so now let's use the browser in this app. In app.js, use browser router, and within this tag let's use routes. Okay, so in routes we will implement every navigation route for all our 5 or 4 components. So we have to start it with root, and then what goes inside root is element. No, it would be the path, what path you wanted to what path you wanted to navigate, then element, what component you wanted to have, and then exact attribute, that would be like whether you want it to be exact URL not. So same way, there are 4 components, right? So let us create 4. So here we give the path as first home, right? For the slash, we would just give view users. So it will call view users component. Exact, it will be true. For the next path, it would be view users, and it would be same. Next, navigation for save user or add user, you can call it add user. For this one, the component is add user. Next is update user. For this, the component name is update user. And there will be one more root path, which is delete user, and this component would be delete user. Alright, delete, okay, and we would keep our header here. So now we have to, okay, they all have been imported. Alright, delete something. Okay, so everything is imported. Now let's move to user service. So this is going to be a class, the ES class, right? So let's have import React, then it would be a class user service. Then this class is something we are going to export default new user service. So we are going to export the user object itself. So we can call this class, call the methods of this class. So the methods would be the CRUD methods. So first would be get all users. The function is get all users. First function, then find user, then update add user, then update user, then delete user, and we are going to import the ReactJS because we are going to send a request to REST API. ReactJS, basically ReactJS from ReactJS. Alright, so now we are going to define some constants. So get all users URL, it would be something, then find user URL, then user URL, then update user URL. Right, so next is delete, constant delete user URL. Alright, so we have these 5 URLs which we are going to use in each of the methods. So let us see how it works. So the method, the URL would be, we have to take it from our Spring Boot. Which is going to be which is going to be 8080. And then get all users. So this is going to be the URL basically which we are going to use. So in for get all users, alright. For localhost, then for find user, for every URL we have to give the values accordingly. So get user ID. So for find user it is get user and then ID. Add user it is save user. Alright, save user. Then we have update user. Then we have delete user with ID. So delete user /. So first of all we would test this get all users. We are going to test this get all users. So axios dot get method will be passing this URL, get all users URL. Okay, so here we have to, first of all, we have to move them outside because they are showing the error. Yeah, now they look good. So these constants we have used. So get all users URL. So we are going to store this to some variable, let data. Okay, so we're going to print this data so that just to make sure we are receiving the data. And there is some error in app.js. What is that? Alright. So that is fixed now. So the next thing we have to do is we are going to send the request to Spring Boot, right, which is going to run the Spring Boot server would be different, the port would be different. So in that case it is going to display us the cross origin error in our browser. So it is not going to get the data, it is not going to communicate with Spring Boot server. So beforehand we have to go to Spring Boot. So we have to create a class that is for cross origin resource sharing. So we are going to import this. We are going to save this to our Spring Boot project. All right. So we have added this class which is having enable web MVC, as well as this is also part of configuration, so it will be taken as configuration. And what methods we have allowed here is get, post, put, delete. These 4 methods we have allowed to any request coming to this. Okay, so we have added this class to our Spring Boot project. Now let's go back to ReactJS. So here the control would be in app.js, right? So the home component would be view users. So it would always call view users first as soon as you hit the URL. So here let's load the component, let's load the users. So we would use use effect hook, so that as soon as this component loads up, right, this specific hook would be executed. So first of all, let's use the use state hook. So we have to create the variable. So use state, so the variable name would be state, and method would be set state, and its initial value would be users. All right, so now we would use we would implement the use effect hook. All right, so in this hook we will implement to load the data from REST API. So this empty array we are giving, so that it will not get called again and again. So let us implement its major part. So we have added this callback function. So here we would call user service dot get all users, and then we would use promises. So then we call this part, and this takes 2 arguments, right? So let's have 2 callback functions within, and this would be receiving the response. And let's implement this part. So here we will call set state, and we will have a callback function so that it would set the state, it would set the user's value. So here users would be response dot data. All right, response dot data. So now all right, so now let's have a console.log where we would be printing this data. JSON.stringify, sorry for that, JSON.stringify state.users. So let's see this. Let us in user service, right? Since we are using the promise and in view users, so it should receive the data. So let's remove this variable and return it directly. So let's remove this part and view all those users here. So here, as soon as it is received by this promise, right, I mean until and unless the data is received, then only this set part will be executed. So this is too early to print. Let's move this console statement to here. Now let us save this, and let me run the Spring Boot application first, so that just to make sure the port is ready and the backend server is ready. So once the backend server is ready, then we can run the npm start on React side. Okay, so backend part is ready. Now let's run React frontend. Alright, so the server has run. Now let's go to the UI part and let's check the console statements. So here we see that the data is being printed via the React app was able to fetch the data from backend. So that's a great thing. Now let's move to the view users file, where we have to print the data on the UI, on the user interface. So we have to create a table, and in that table, in each row, the data have to be printed. Okay, so here we will be printing the table. So let's create a table tag and class name for the bootstrap. So table stripe, and here let's have a t-head tag. Within this t-head, let's have a table row. There will be a table head, one column each. So ID. Then the next heading would be first name. Then there would be last name. There would be an email. Alright, so we will give this a color. Alright, so let's run this and see the basic the first template. We'll add one text center also. Let's see what changes in UI. Okay, so we have 4 columns. Now there should be a next one more column that should be named as action. So let's go back and have an action column. So action would be something like we want to update, you want to delete this row, something like that. Alright, action. So now the next tag would be t body. Alright, so we have this t body tag. Within this t body tag, we have to display every row, every user data that we have retrieved from the REST API. So let's use the JavaScript again here. So we are going to use state.users.map. We are going to iterate through every user row, and this row will be this data in every row will be stored into this object user. So let's have this in bracket, and I would be its key. So this is a callback function that we are going to implement here. So within this this map function now, maps callback function now, let's have every data displayed. So let's use, so again we have to use return so that we can use HTML data, HTML tags again. So it would go as tr, in every tr there will be td, right? So how you do that? td into 4, right? No, td so td, then we use user dot id, we display id here, then so user dot first name, right? Then user dot last name, then user dot email. All right, and the last one would be the action, right? So within this, okay, so within this td we are going to have two buttons. So button class name, button warning, something, some sort of color that you can give. Name of this button would be update, and then there'll be one more button, and its color would be something else, so it would be delete button. All right, so now let's run this again and see the result. Alright, so we have the data now. There are two buttons that we have given in action. So update would be to update this particular row data, and delete would be to delete this particular row. And we can have one more button below this, that would be add user. So let's have add button also. That would be below this tr, right? And be below this map function. Sorry, this would be below this table itself. All right. So here we would add one more button. Button success. All right, its name would be add user. All right, okay. All right, so we have this add user button. So we should make this button complete, like, you know, fit to this window. So let's use this, let's make this form control. If we add this form control, it will become completely fit to this table. All right, so let's go back and let's make these two of the buttons interactive, right? So we can make this on click. We can add the methods handle update. All right, for this one, add a method handle delete. For this, button. Let's add the method on click handle add user. All right, so let's implement these three methods here below. Okay, so let handle add user. All right, let handle update. Let handle delete. Handle update, right? So here we call, here we pass the user.id. all right, what user it is, it should pass this specific id, user.id. Here also user.id, and here we receive update, and update we receive id, in delete also we receive id. So we have these three functions. Now when you click on add user, right, add user button, this function will be called, and this function should navigate you to the add user component, where this component will be displaying the form where you have to give your inputs, and as soon as you click on submit button, it should store the data to the database, or it should send the data to the backend. So let us use router concept and navigate this to the add user component. So we are going to use navigate hook. All right, and from here we are going to navigate this to add user, and we know that add user is going to take you to add user component. So in add user, just to make sure this is getting invoked, let us display something. This is add user. All right, all right, this has taken you to add user component. Now let us so here our first job is to create a form and do the form handling using ReactJS, so that we can submit our data. All right, so let's create a simple form. Let's create a simple form, a bootstrap form, where we would be submitting the data, the user data, and we have to send them to the REST API. So let's begin this form. Create a label, and then ID, input type, text, value would be ID, class name would be form control. Then same for first name. Then last name. Then email. And last would be submit. Class name would be form control. Let's see how it looks. Alright, we have to define these values, these data. So we have to define these variables. Let ID, we have to use the use state. Let ID, set ID. Same way for all the parameters, all the input fields. First name, all right. Use state is not defined. Let me import the use state. So use state has been imported. Now let's see. Alright, this is how it looks. It's simple, very simple. On submit, it would be calling a method handle submit. Here as well, on every field, on change, it would be calling an event function handle ID. Same way for handle first name, handle last name, handle email. So we have to define a method here, every function here. So that handle ID. All right. This function would be receiving the event, and here it would be calling set ID, where it would be passing the value of e.event.target.value. all right. Okay, so same way we have to do it for all the fields. That is handle first name, handle last name, handle email, set first name, set last name, set email. All right, let us see this. All right, let us see the form now. There is an error, something we have missed. Handle submit is not defined. Handle submit. This is the main method here. Let handle submit. All right. All right. Okay. All right. Okay, so now we have all the methods, we have the entire form. Now what we have to do is we have to, as soon as the form is submitted, it should invoke, it is invoking this function, and here we should send this data that we have entered, and we have to send the data to add user function of this user service class. So one thing we would correct here for all the URLs is beforehand we would correct it so that we don't see any error later. Alright, this all looks okay now. So we would be calling add user URL from, we will be calling add user function from add user. Okay, so here what we do is e.prevent default so that it doesn't submit twice later. Now what we do is we have to receive this. Okay, so now let's create a user object. It's a user object. ID would be ID, first name would be first name, last name would be last name, email would be email. That's all. So let's run this and wait. Let's run this and see the output of this alert. JSON.stringify user. Alright, let us run this and see what happens. Do we see the data or not? The application has been compiled. Now let me enter some data. Alright, we do see the data. Now let us pass this data to user service class. Alright, so let me comment this out here. Let me call user service dot add user. Alright, and send this user object. Then use the promise here. Use the promise. It would be it has to take 2 callback functions. Alright. Alright. Okay. So the first callback function it would once the data is retrieved, once the add user function is called, it should display an alert saying the user has been added successfully. Alright. Otherwise, alert user creation failed. Alright, let me call this now. Okay, so user service, let me see this user service class. Alright, it should return this and it should send this add user will be sending the post request and this add user URL, and it would be passing this user data to the backend API. Okay, so this is the add user URL. Now let's try this. I hope the application, the backend is running. Oh yeah, it is running. Let me try this. Let me try this. Alright. So here, let me save this. Let me click on submit. User has been created successfully. That's great. Alright. Now if I check this, right, have we added this Adam Gilchrist to this existing? Yes, it has been added. Great. So now we have to do one more thing. As soon as the user is added, we have to navigate this to the home page. So let's do that. So have we used navigation? No, right? So let me define the use navigate hook. Let navigate use navigate. Alright. Here we call navigate. Alright. We call path name. Alright. We call home, home page. Let's see how it works. Alright, let me try this. Something 8 Ricky Ponting gmail.com. Let me submit this. User created successfully. Alright, it has been navigated to home page and it is having this newly added row. That's great. Okay, so add user part is done. Now let us move to Let us move to update user. Alright, so we have to go back to view user function, that's view user component, and we have this update handle update, right? So handle update, it is sending the ID. It is sending the ID to this function handle update. So this handle update function, this function should navigate you to update user component, and where you'll be displayed a form where you can change the existing data, existing user. So let's see how we can implement this. So navigate path name. So here it has to pass the ID. So it has to pass the ID. All right, it has to pass the ID to other component, that is the update user component. So let's see how we can pass some value using routing concept. All right, so we have to give, let me see the path update user. All right, so okay, so update user, we have to give the path, right? Then we have to send the value, what value you want to send. So this is ID, the same ID that you'll be sending to update user component. All right, so let's see, let's go there and receive this ID. So first of all, let's just have something simple. This is update form. Let me save this and see whether it is navigating you to update form or not. All right. All right, let's go to home. Let's go to home page. Okay, it is navigating you directly. So why is it happening? Handle update. On click, handle update. Okay, so in this view user component, right, I have not added this callback function. I have just written it wrong. So let us write it as a callback function. All right. Let us write this as a callback function. Let me write it again. On click. Yes, now it looks good. Same way I would update this one also. So it would be handle delete. So now let's run this and see. So that's the home page. As soon as I click on update, it should navigate us to update user form. Alright, so now let us go to update user component, and I have a same form, very similar form as add user. Alright. Alright, so here what change we would do is we would call the find ID, the get user ID, the get user function first. We will check whether this data, this ID does exist in database or not. If it exists, then only update this this existing then only display this form. Alright, so since we are passing the ID to this component, right? We have to receive that ID here using routing concept. So one more new hook we would be using here, that is location. So use location is the hook that we will be using. So let find ID, it would be location dot state dot ID. Right, this is the ID that we are receiving from view user component. We are sending it from handle update, right? This ID we are receiving in update user component. So as soon as we got this find ID, we have to call the function to find the user. So here we would be creating a user variable using use state, so a user object basically. So use state, alright, use state user, set user, ID blank, first name blank, last name blank, then email. This would also be blank. So here what we do is we'll use the use effect hook as soon as this component is loaded. It will fetch the data. It will fetch the data by the ID that we have received. So a callback function user service dot find user by its ID. So let's do this thing, location or state.id. Okay, let's comment this out, location.state.id. Then we'll use the promise. Okay, so this find user belongs to this user service, right? Find user, this would be receiving the ID, and here it will call the method return dot anxious get find user URL, find user URL plus ID. All right, find user. Okay, yes, it should work. So we were at update user, right? So update user. Now what happens is let's complete this promise. Okay. Okay. So here it would be response, and as soon as it has got the data, it would call set user, where it would be passing this response dot data. All right. So it will call this particular function the setter. Okay. Let's see what happens. Let's see. And here what we do is we will use the placeholders. The placeholder would be user dot ID, and let's make this disabled. Let's make this particular field disabled so that you cannot change the ID, you cannot update the ID. And placeholder for first name, let's make this user dot first name. All right. Similarly for last name, then similarly for email. All right, let us see this now. Let us see what happens. It says use navigate is not defined in update user. Let's import this. Import use navigate. Use navigate. All right. So it has compiled successfully. Now let's see. Okay, so it has got, so it has got this particular stuff. Okay, let's go to home page first. Okay, let's update David Warner. Okay, so it is receiving the data, it is fetching the data first of all, and then it is telling you to update this. So let's try this. David Warner B. I have changed this data, and let me update the email ID also. Warner Bros. gmail.com. Let's see, the user has been created successfully, and then it is taking you here. Okay, we had left it blank. Okay, we had left it blank. Okay, it has become 0. Let's see, something is missing here. Something is missing. Yes, so we have named the same variable twice, right? We have already used user. So let's make it user temp. Alright, user temp, and set user. User temp. So user temp, this would be user temp. Let's try this once. Let's update Virat Kohli. Okay, let me save this one. User creation failed. Okay, I do see that. Okay, I have got this. Let me say this. So we are not passing this any new ID to this, right? We already have the ID. So let's utilize this. This is something what we are missing here. So handle ID, we are not even calling this function at all. So first of all, let's remove this on change. Let's remove this, and this user ID would be, if you pass this ID, right, it would be 0. So I mean, it would be empty. So let's do this one. It would be sending this ID. All right, so let us save this now and run this again, and let's see whether it works or not. Hopefully it will work. Okay, so let me go to the home page. All right, yes, so this is the home page. Let me change this. If you see, we cannot change this ID. This text box is disabled. So Virat RCB @gmail.com. User has been created successfully. Alright, Virat RCB, right? So what we have done is, it's something user is not created. Let's change this message. User has been updated successfully. All right, so the update part is also done. Now what is left is delete. All right, so this delete part is left. So let's go to the view user component again and call this. When you call this handle delete, right, it is passing the handle delete, it is passing the ID. So here what we do is, let's navigate this, navigate, and path name would be, if you just see this, the path name would be delete user. So view user, this is delete user, give a slash here. Alright, so app.js, okay, so delete user, yeah, it is correct. Now user service.js, it should call this one, so let's receive the ID here. Now here it will return ReactJS dot delete. So basically, I mean, for this update, if you see, we are not even using this anyway. You can optimize the code here for update, where we are we are cloning the same code of add user to update user. So you can optimize this, it's up to you, but for the simple example sake, right, we are just using this, we are just writing this, we are just implementing it this way. So update delete user, right, delete user, this URL would be this URL plus ID, right, delete user plus ID. So this would be sending the response back to this one, delete. Okay, so as soon as it is removed, right, as soon as this is removed, sorry, it would be navigated to this particular component. Let's do this. First of all, let's write something. This is delete component. Alright, let's save this, let's run this and see. So this is already messed up, right? So we have to delete this one, right? So for now it will not be removed, but we have to give the logic, we have to write the logic, correct? So let's go with that. Let's write the logic. So here what we do is, so here let's go back to view user. So here also we will be passing this ID, right? So let's do this same way. We have to pass this ID as an argument to this. So the URL will be delete user, same, and so it will be navigated to delete user component along with this ID value, this ID parameter, right? So here we have to receive this parameter, we have to receive this ID. So let's do this. Let location use location, use location. All right, yeah, let navigate use use navigate, right? So here what I think is, what I feel is like I should use the use effect hook, okay, and I would implement this as soon as this component loads up, right? It will remove this, it will call the delete function, it will call the delete API of backend, and as soon as it is removed, it will send you back to the home page. That's what I think. I mean, you can have your own idea of implementing this, but this is something I would do. So use effect user have this callback function. All right, so here we will call user service dot delete user. Okay, so we'll be passing location.state.id, all right, and we will use the promise. So promise, here we have the callback function, all right, we have success and failure callback functions. So I would go with this success one. Here what I do is I call, so once this is deleted, I would use navigate. I would use the path name, alright. I would use the path name, it would be the home page, alright, that's all. For me, one more thing, I would say I would give an alert saying the user has been deleted successfully. Alright, a simple alert I would do. Okay, maybe we have not mentioned the response. Okay, so let's update this message here. User ID and this part location.id has been Alright, so we have this delete user component, right? So we will be calling this from view user, and from this handle delete function we will be navigating this to delete user component, and here we will be deleting this specific user ID row from the database. Alright, let's check this out. So the application has run. Let me reload the page. I assume I want to remove this David Warner, right? So it's a user ID 5 has been deleted successfully. Yes, it has been removed. I want to remove R. Ashwin. User ID 3 has been removed. Alright, that's all. That's how it works. So we have seen the update, we have seen delete, we have seen add user, and the view all the users. So we have created the CRUD application using ReactJS.